Chris, that game, obviously, big one for you, the offensive line and B-Rob. When you guys were able to establish that type of physicality, now how much pride do y'all take in that?
I think it helps us set the tone for what we want to be as a team. We know Bryce is really talented. We have some talented receivers, but we don't want to be a one-trick pony. So being able to have a balanced attack both in the air and on the ground, it'll just help us be harder to game plan for throughout the weeks. And that's just something we need to build on because we never know what type of game we'll be in, whether it's a shootout or a grind 'em out type of game. We've got to be able to have both styles of play in our repertoire.
Charlie Potter, you're next.
Yeah, along those lines, just how would you assess the play of the offensive line through 5 games?
I think we've been growing as a unit, getting some chemistry. I know last game was kind of the big coming out party, but as we watch film this week, we feel like there's a lot of plays where we didn't finish as well. We still left a lot of points, a lot of yards on the field. But it's important to take a game like that and just continue to stack on top of it because at the end of the year, we want to be able to play our best football. So building up against really good teams while we can is going to really help us.
Nick Kelly, you're next.
Hey, Chris, you guys have another loud environment coming up this week. What did you maybe learn from the time of the swamp and in terms of managing noise, and how are you guys going to make sure you improve on how you handle that noise?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we learned, which is something Coach Saban has mentioned to us a couple times, is that you can't allow the home crowd to get back into the game, especially if you're playing really well, because they're just going to feed off of that momentum. And as you saw in the Florida game, we came out in the first half and we played pretty well, but in the second half we struggled, especially on offense, moving the ball as much as we could and leaving some yards on the field, especially when we kicked the 1 field goal. So we've got to be able to not only deal with the noise, but also be able to finish the game so that way we can eliminate the home crowd out of it because they're a really good team. And we know that them coming off of 2 straight losses, they're going to be hungry, ready to play a really good team in us, and they want to get back on track.
Mike Rodak, you're next.
Chris, just for the offense as a whole, what are some of the areas where you think you've improved the most since the first week of the season?
I think the biggest area would be communication. Especially early on in the year, we kind of all knew what to do, but communicating it to everyone else, making sure the guy next to you knew what he had or the guy behind you knew what he had, we weren't really there. And I think especially going on the road in the swamp and then getting ready for this game and all the games in between, we've really focused on being able to communicate from one person to the next so that we're all on the same page.
Charlie Potter, go ahead.
Yeah, just in film study, what stands out the most about A&M's front?
Yeah, they got a really good front. Number 3, number 2, they're both long, rangy ends. They play the run and pass really well. Got great get off. I think number 92 is 6'6", 310, so he's a big disruptor. Of course, DeMarvin's a first-round top 10 talent. He's disruptive in the run and the pass game. Number 1, he's been there a long time at the linebacker spot. And those guys up front really help everybody else on the field be able to play fast. So as long as we can handle our business up front, it'll make it a little more difficult on them. But we understand that they're a really good team. They got really good personnel. They're really well coached. And like we said before, playing in that tough environment that they're going to be in this weekend, we've got to make sure we do everything we can do in practice this week to help us be as successful as we can.
Casagrande, you're next.
Yeah, going back to the crowd noise, what did you guys learn schematically or strategically on how to operate with the? You guys had a number of the false start flags with the crowd noise. What did you learn from that?
Yeah, we got to be able to use different cadences, and we got to be able to lock into what our assignment is. When you're dealing with crowd noise like that, there's minimal communication that's not that's verbal. So you've got to be able to use hand signals, and you've got to know what you're doing. And you've got to also, especially up front, be able to anticipate the snap count. So we know we probably won't be able to hear anything. There won't be much communication between us and Bryce unless it's him coming right up to the line of scrimmage. And I think the big thing for us this week is just knowing what you have to do, where you have to be, so that way when you get to the game, there's not a bunch of questions like, hey, what do I have here? What do I have there? You just kind of know what you're doing and you're able to play fast.
Katie Wyndham, go ahead.
Chris, it kind of seems like every week on offense, there's been different people stepping up, and obviously with Jace out, some more people will have to step up. But just kind of talk about maybe the attitude of some of the skill players on offense that they're willing to have, different people shine each week.
I mean, you come to Alabama and there's a bunch of competitors here. You have a 5-star, 4-star behind you when you get out of high school, and there's guys that have been here before you that are experienced, and they've been playing well too. So I think it kind of sets the standard of what everyone wants to be. And so if we do have an injury or we do have somebody who's not playing as good as they can, there's an expectation that the next man that'll step up will be able to fill that role and do it to the best of his abilities. So with Jace being down now, we know that there's going to be a bunch of our other running backs in the room that step up, and we're going to do a good job on offense around them so that we don't put too much pressure on those guys, and we can let them play as fast as they can as well.
Joseph Goodman, go ahead.
Hey, Chris, how well did you get to know Bryce Young last year when you guys were working together?
I would say pretty well. Bryce is my guy. We would talk about basketball, 2K. Got familiar with him being the quarterback because I was the second team center behind Landon, and of course he was behind Mac. So we got really familiar then, and coming into the spring, we continued to build that chemistry. And I think one of the things that Bryce does really well is that he's very personable, and he actually takes the time to get to know everyone on the team. So it's not just him learning his receivers or his offensive linemen. You know, he talks to defensive players as well, some of the training staff. You know, he's just a very personable guy. So honestly, getting to know him and growing a great friendship with him really wasn't that hard. It was kind of just natural.
Tony Sakalis, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, following the game, Lane Kiffin said that he sees Evan Neal as a future '1 overall pick. I'm wondering, do you share that assessment? And what also have you seen from Evan this year?
I mean, he's, 6'8", 340, incredible feet, strong as an ox. I mean, there's really not much Evan can't do, but I think where he's grown over the years is his intelligence. Like, you can see the progression from freshman year where he was a left guard. Then last year he's at right tackle. Now he's at left tackle. He's had experience on both sides of the field at multiple positions, and he's starting to take that second and third level learning so that he can progress his game to not only help himself now, but help himself in the future. So I think, of course, Evan's going to be a top 5 pick, and he's a good person too, so that just adds on to his character.
Nick Kelly, go ahead.
I want to ask you about another teammate, Will Anderson. You get to go against him in practice, obviously. What is it like getting in your pass set against a guy with that kind of speed and quickness?
Yeah, the Terminator is kind of difficult to block. I mean, you go against him every day, you kind of prepare yourself for what you'll see on Saturdays. So I get the best look from the best pass rusher in the country every day. And it's definitely not easy. There's definitely times where he's gotten the best of me, and I try to get the best of him when I can. But he's just continuing to help me grow as a player, especially at a new position this year, and I'm thankful for what he does for me at practice.
Got time for 2 more. Joseph, go ahead. Joseph Goodman, go ahead.
Are you there?
All right. Last
Yeah, can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, you almost missed your chance.
Oh, damn. Don't do that in journalism school. Hey, man, listen. You played with so many good quarterbacks, and I know you want to be a GM. What are some questions that you would ask potential NFL quarterbacks if you were a GM?
Can we get back to that in maybe like 10 plus years or so? I don't know if I'm ready for that one right now. I'm just kind of worried about this season and this week.
All right, we'll wrap up. Stephen M. Smith, go ahead.
Chris, I mean, what have you seen so far with Darian Dow Court at center, first time actually being the starting guy at that spot, but how have you seen him kind of take that role a bit more?
Yeah, he's putting a lot more emphasis on the game plan. I know it's kind of hard when you're a backup and you don't know if you're really going to play or if you're not going to play, to try to prepare to the best of your abilities. But this year you can see not only his growth mentally, but physically he's gotten a lot bigger, a lot stronger. And he's kind of embracing that role like, I'm in the middle of the line. I've got to be able to communicate to everybody. And he's definitely become someone who's more outspoken. He has to be, especially playing center. And I feel comfortable with him there. I think we all feel comfortable as an offense. And we know that whenever he's out on the field, he's going to give us everything he can.